Hey everybody, welcome to episode 9, coming up on episode 10, which feels significant for some reason. I hope you guys are having a good week. I hope you had a good week. Mine was eventful, but in a good way. My instrumental record, which is called Throat, is officially out in the world. It's on Bandcamp right now. I'll put a link. And it'll be on Spotify, I think October 1st. I wanted to start out on Bandcamp just because it was faster, basically. It's not really a money thing because it's still free if you want it to be free. You can pay whatever you want for it, and if that's nothing but you still want it, that's totally cool with me. That's just the way I do things, I guess. Up top, I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm having a bad day with the throat stuff. Just a lot of cracks and that kind of thing. So maybe you'll think it's funny. I don't know. Maybe you'll be entertained by it. But having the instrumental record out is really cool. Thank you guys that have said nice stuff about it. I really appreciate it. That honestly means a lot to me. It came out on Friday, and I spent Friday working on music. I initially was spending it feeling kind of sad because putting out an instrumental record because I had to was a strange feeling. It felt good because I'm proud of it and people like it, and that's great. But it also felt like kind of a monument to my throat problems and you know, sometimes those problems make me very sad and stressed out and that kind of thing and fearful. I don't know if you guys have been on WebMD lately, but we all have cancer. We all have some terrible illness that's going to kill us because our foot hurts a little. Thank you, WebMD. My drummer gave me the best advice yesterday. He just said, stay off of WebMD. And now I'm passing it along. Stay off of WebMD. But I was feeling a little sad about it. And then I was getting a little wrapped up in like, how do people like the record? How is it doing? And I realized I didn't want to spend my day doing that, so I worked on some more music. I have this new instrumental that's like 7 minutes long, that is taking time to work on because it's 7 minutes long. So each performance takes 7 minutes. But that's been fun. And I've started recording the music for an EP that I will sing when my throat gets fixed. And hopefully that'll happen soon. But keeping busy like that sort of kept my mind from wandering to places I didn't want it to go. Places of concern about if people liked the record or if, you know, if I was going to have to do instrumental music forever or whatever. So occupying myself and staying busy felt really good, and I talked about that last week. One thing I didn't mention last week that I should have, that I wanted to, was this other thing that I do, because even I don't always want to be making something notable. You know, I like to write songs, I like to record music, and I like to shoot podcasts apparently, and putting the book together was really fun. But other times you don't have that kind of energy. But I still feel really good at the end of the day when I can say, like, this is what I did today. I'm all for like a relaxing day where you do nothing. But if I string too many of those together, too many nights of laying in bed going like, I did nothing, I just watched 15 episodes of The Office today, I start to feel bad. Though I love that show, and I definitely think you should take a day here and there to watch 15 episodes of something you love. Just for me, if it gets to be too much, I start feeling like I gotta do something. So one of the things I do is I'll give myself pleasurable, kind of silly tasks, so that at the end of the day I can go like, oh, I did that. Notably, one of the recent-ish ones was, there's a band called Band of Horses, and I woke up and I put on their first record, and it just went down real nice. So then I put on the second one, And halfway through it, I decided I'm going to listen to all of the Band of Horses records today. And that's what I did that day, whilst, tidying up the house and playing with Ollie and talking to Tori. I listened to all, was it 5? Possibly 6, if you count Live at the Ryman, which you should. Listen to all 6 of them, the Band of Horses records. And then at the end of the day, I went, hey, I did it. I just finished the 6th one. Success. I also, I've been trying to drink a gallon of water every day. So sometimes on my less productive days, I can still go like, hey, I hit my water goal. Hooray. And then there's been other stuff, like just giving myself stuff to look forward to. Like doing the podcast. I had this epiphany last week that I just like doing this. And that means it doesn't matter how it does. So I haven't even really been paying that close attention to the numbers or whatever. I just kind of, I take pleasure in making them, and then I rejoice when people say that they like it. And that's it. And because I'm not charging for it, and because I'm not spending any money to make it, I'm free to do that. I'm free to just like, I like doing these. And that, realizing that like kind of lifted a burden of expectation and of, maybe someday one of these will be 6 minutes long, but that'll be fine. And maybe someday one of them will be an hour long, and that'll be fine too. Because I just like making them. The other thing I do to give myself stuff to look forward to is Tori, my wife, and I. Tori is my wife. It's not 3 people. Tori, my wife, and I. My wife and I will, we watch a scary movie every night. And we're up to like 160 something scary movies. But at the very beginning of quarantine and lockdown and all that stuff, we saw it coming from a few days out, and we started getting ourselves prepared, just to have stuff to do. So we bought some books and some records, and I bought these 3 movies by a gentleman named David Lowry, who's from Texas, and has a great mustache. And I already owned one of his movies called The Old Man and the Gun. It's a Robert Redford, Sissy Spacek. It's very good. They're saying it might be Redford's last, but it has a great feel. It's got this really cozy kind of 70s film feel. And then I heard that he had 2 other movies that were kind of notable in that people really liked them. One of them is like a modern Western thing called Ain't Them Bodies Saints, and it's great. And then the other one is called A Ghost Story. So we bought all 3 of them and decided we'll watch them 3 days in a row, and it'll give us stuff to talk about during the day too, because all 3 of them, particularly A Ghost Story, it's one of these movies that you could talk about for weeks and sort of pick stuff up and interpret stuff and that kind of thing. So that's been really good too. So consider this my encouragement to set yourself little goals and little excitements throughout the day, and it helps me kind of keep my mind a little bit more focused, because when I lose focus is when the sads creep in. So let's have some coffee. You guys, my friend Jenny sent me a mug. Ooh. I love this mug. I'm gonna get you guys a nice picture of this mug, but it has the lyrics to a song called What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding that was written by Nick Lowe and famously covered by Elvis Costello, who's a favorite of mine. And on the mug it says, as I walk through this wicked world, searching for light in the darkness of insanity, I ask myself, is all hope lost? Is there only pain and hatred and misery? And each time I feel this inside, there's one thing I want to know. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? And that's great. And my friend Jenny, I opened my front door to go check the mail, and there was a little gift bag sitting there, and it was some coffee and this amazing mug. And I just love it. And that song and those words, I just think are perfect. it also kind of leads to something I wanted to talk about today, because I read this thing about toxic positivity, which sounds bad because it's bad. But it's also misunderstood, I think. I think sort of a trademark of the modern age is we come up with new terms because we're having good conversations that are deeper than our past conversations, and we're getting to things that weren't talked about before to such an extent that we didn't even have labels for them. So we're hearing phrases like, white privilege or toxic masculinity, and some people are taking these things real personal, and they're feeling aggressed or insulted by them. And I think usually that just demonstrates a sort of lack of understanding about the term itself. Like I don't think masculinity is bad. I don't think, being white is bad. I don't think being anything that is just the way you were born is bad. But it's like with the masculinity thing, it's about how you're using it and in what degree and in what circumstances and that kind of thing. And with toxic positivity, I think it's the same thing. I think some people see that phrase and they kind of shrug it off like, well, what could be bad about being positive? But I think when you consider anything else that gets toxic, it has to do with an excess or using it in a way that's damaging to the person using it or to people around that person. So, you're not going to ever hear me try to talk people out of being positive. I'm trying really hard as I get older to be more and more positive. But the reason I'm trying to be positive is because there's work to be done, and there's things I want to do, and I don't have a lot of interest in this vague kind of hippie positivity that just says everything's fine when it's not. But I'm very interested in a kind of positivity that says, if you feel good, you'll be more effective. Or, sometimes positivity is just about being honest. Like, I could be all woe is me, but I would have to ignore some things. I would have to ignore my relationship with my wife and our son, and the joy of music and good movies and coffee and this podcast, and that's dishonest. I think trying to approach the ails of the world is going to require us to bring something to the table, some alternative, and I think that's where positivity really helps. And at the same time, I think what makes positivity toxic is when it just gets painted over everything. And one thing I think we've demonstrated in 9 weeks of this podcast is that it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to have a bad day, and it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to have honest conversations about depression and the difficulties of just living sometimes, But I don't think anybody needs any encouragement to feel that way. I think between social media and the news, we have plenty of voices out there saying, hey, feel bad. Everything's terrible. And even if that news is true and this story is terrible and we should feel bad, I think we need some balance. I think we need to remember what a better world would look like, and we need to acknowledge when we experience brief moments of that better world, whilst leaving everybody plenty of space to feel everything that they feel, So yeah, that's my bit on toxic positivity. The other thing is, like, a lot of times, I read a really interesting study in Time. I actually read this article. I didn't just see the headline. 93% of Black Lives Matter protests have been peaceful. And I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed from the news that I was given that they were peaceful. And I think that is a positive thing. I think that's a great example of like, we're going to take to the streets and we're going to march and we're going to try to affect change because there needs to be some change here structurally and systematically from top to bottom. But we're going to do it peacefully and through communication and even just taking action in a cause that is important, I think is a positive thing. And pointing that out and giving people a boost, it's sort of like how a doctor has to keep themselves healthy, I think. That we need to remember what's good and, and remember what we're striving towards. But we also need to strive towards it in real, effective, tangible ways. So there's that. I also have some quotes from interesting sources on positivity. I just happened to see one this morning from Malcolm X, of all people, who I think was a really inspiring man. I think maybe because of the role he played or the way that he's cast in history, I think we view him as, I think we view him incompletely. I think we think things about Malcolm X that were probably true, but I think we miss part of the picture, as we do with probably all historical figures. But he said, "There is no better than adversity. Every defeat, every heartbreak, every loss contains its own seed, its own lesson on how to improve your performance next time." Which to me feels like positivity. To me, that feels like saying, hey, it's going to be okay. And then the other one was from a Stoic from many years ago named Epictetus, which is a fun name. If you have a hard time remembering it, think about it, Titus, and then just like the best one, the most epic Titus. I don't know what a Titus is. It's a funny word though. And Epictetus said, "Hold, unhappy man, be not swept along with your impressions. Great is the struggle, divine the task. The prize is a kingdom, freedom, serenity, peace." And the thing I'm drawn to about Stoicism is this idea that like things can be bad, things are going to be bad. We need to change the things that are bad, but we needn't feel every single thing because it makes us less effective in our efforts to change those things. So when I read that thing about toxic positivity, I asked myself, I thought, I wonder if some people think that the podcast would qualify, because I do tell people it's going to be okay, and I try to encourage people to find the good and that kind of thing. But I don't think that it's toxic positivity. I think it's honesty. There's really, really good stuff, and there's really, really bad stuff, and the bad stuff can change, and the good stuff can change, and we need to pick our spot and decide where we're gonna put our efforts. And if you can embrace the good stuff and work to change the bad stuff, I think you'll do pretty good. But it'll be easier to stay in a long game working on the bad stuff if you're also embracing the good stuff. It'd be more effective, I think. Remember when I was just a songwriter and I didn't do 20-minute philosophical bits about positivity and social change? I'm trying not to slurp this coffee because I listened back to one of the podcasts and it was terrible. Let's do a song. Let's remember the good old days when I didn't just talk to you guys. Did you hear it? My wife said not to point it out when my voice goes away, but I can't help it. I'm going to do you guys a song. It's a happy song. My wife and I had a long conversation this morning about sad songs and the good ones and the not so good ones and the confusing ones. And I mentioned to her something I've thought for a long time, which is that it's harder to write a happy song or a hopeful song. I've been accused of writing sad songs that I thought were hopeful songs because at the end it just kind of turns a little bit. But again, it goes back to that Leonard Cohen quote. There's a crack in everything. And you got to give it that texture, I think. But I think you can also overshoot. I have a new song that I think is just too sunny. And it'll probably never come out. But this is a happy song because it's a true story about driving around with my wife and son and playing music for wonderful people and being embraced by communities and being fed by them, and we were housed by them. This one instance, this is about a show I played in McCook, Nebraska, and it was great. It was a wonderful couple days getting there and getting back, and I wrote this song about it. It's called Something More, and I wasn't going to play it today because I'm a little worried it's out of my current range, but I got a very nice message from my friend Andy, and I decided to play it for him today. So it's called Something More, and if it goes terrible, I'll edit it out. Bear with me. This life will have its way with you sometimes, but when they corner you, say it's time to pick a side. Collect yourself, then demand their rights, and look at them, tell them that you were mine. Well, it might come easy, but it won't last long. So live your life putting the right things off. The past behind you, so never mind the cost. 'Cause it got you to where you are now, so forget what you lost. I can choose to be content, that's the best that I can get. Oh, but you and me, I think we could be something more. Well, I was tired of being laughed at, so I smiled and laughed along. But when that joke came around again, I was already gone. There comes a time when all you can do is just stop caring at all, and hope you never meet again, but promise not to let on when you do. I left a tip, stole the pen, and headed for the car. Every billboard was for religion, fast food, or shopping malls. Trading dollars for salvation, or some comfort, or a way to belong. My biggest problem's that I think that I have problems at all. I can choose to be content, that's the best that I can get. Oh, but you and me, I think we could be something more. Oh, but you and me, I think we could be something more. There we go. I love that song. It feels good playing that song, and it didn't go terribly. Could have gone worse. Let's do some recommendations and let's get you guys out of here. Number one, This record is called Such Jubilee by a band called Mandolin Orange. And they're a duo out of North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. And they just make beautiful, beautiful, kind of bluegrass, kind of folk, kind of, broader than that music. And the thing I love about them is there's an ease to what they do. They just sound so comfortable. Like it's the sound of people doing what they're supposed to be doing. This is the first record I heard. They've put out 2 cents. They're all really good, and they had a few before this one. But this first one I heard, and shortly after I heard it, I had the opportunity to open for them. And they were very kind, and it was a great show. And there's just so many good songs on this record. But listen to Little Worlds, really good. And Of Which There Is No Like is really good. And Old Ties and Companions is really good. Listen to this whole record. Listen to this band, Mandolin Orange. They're tremendous. Up next, we have a gentleman named Ian Noe from Kentucky. This record is called Between the Country. It's a Dave Cobb production. Those of you that are paying attention to what's going on in the Americana world know that has some weight behind it. Dave Cobb is a producer of note, especially these days. Notably, he does, I think, all the Jason Isbell records, and he did the Stapleton records and that kind of stuff. But this gentleman is doing a much more, to my ear, kind of John Prine kind of thing than some of the current people working. And it's great. I heard this record. I was playing a show, and this was just playing over the house speakers while we were sound checking and stuff. And I asked who it was, and the guy said, "It's Ian Noe, isn't it great?" And I said, "Yeah, it's really, really good." And I bought it the next day. Listen to Barbara's song, and there'll be links to all this stuff. But Ian Noe, tremendous stuff. And then finally, if you want a movie recommendation, any of the 3 David Lowery movies I talked about, but particularly, this movie's called A Ghost Story. And I couldn't possibly do this movie justice by talking about it, so I'll try not to talk about it too much. But it's intriguing the way it plays with time and our experience of it. And it's intriguing in that it'd be fair to say, almost no dialogue. It's a very quiet movie, but it's incredibly moving and impactful. I thought about this movie for weeks afterwards, and I highly recommend it. I don't recommend movies too often because I find, even more than music, movies are subjective, and you like what you like and that kind of thing. But this is a great movie. Casey Affleck, Rooney Mara, great movie. Check it out. And that's it. We went long today, but we don't play by other people's rules. We're rebels, you and me. We do what we want. And if we want this podcast to be 29 minutes, by God, it's going to be. I have my COVID test on Sunday. And then on Tuesday, I go to Madison to get my throat looked at and hopefully start getting some answers. I will shoot one more of these before that appointment. So hopefully in a couple weeks, I'll have some news for you guys. In the meantime, thank you for being gracious with my struggles, and thank you for your support and your kind words, and just for listening and being around. And yeah, if there's a song you want to hear, if there's something you want to talk about, if, whatever, let me know in the comments, and we'll talk to you soon. In the meantime, try to stay positive, but do it in the right way, because there's a right way, and you'll figure that out for yourself. Just be thoughtful and think about how you're thinking, and think about what you're doing and why. And in the meantime, it's going to be okay. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.